I'm trying to do something different in the journalism space. I'm trying to change the journalism industry. And so you have to be out there and tell people who you are and what your goal is.
This is the Marketing Agency Power Hour, and I'm your host, Cal Wilder. Each week, we'll power through discussions on business challenges, success stories, and game-changing strategies. This show is sponsored by SmartBooks, provider of bookkeeping and accounting for marketing agencies. Let's get started. I am intrigued to be talking with today's guest as I have a real personal interest in the niche that he works in. He's in the journalism niche, and his own reporting is based in Boston, where he covers marginalized communities and works alongside community members and creator journalists to elevate undercovered voices and help rebuild trust in journalism through accessible, community-driven storytelling, both locally and nationally. He's the founder of Bottom Up Media, which is an independent journalism organization that produces, incubates, and consults on creator journalism for the next generation of audiences. Rahim Jessani, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Cal.
So what's the single most powerful strategy for success in your firm these days?
For me, it's about networking. And I look at that in two elements. Number one is the networking of people in the journalism world. I'm a young founder, so I haven't been to a lot of conferences and all these places. So talking to people like yourselves and across the country, across the world, quite frankly, just to learn from them, be able to get clientele from them as well, and to just put my face out there as best as I can, especially in times where I'm trying to do something different in the journalism space. I'm trying to change the journalism industry, and so you have to be out there and tell people who you are and what your goal is. And the other part about that is networking amongst your communities. That's something I believe journalism needs to do better at, which is talking to people. It's something I'm seeing a lot of local, newsrooms do very, very well, but it is something that I believe is the core principle of what bottom up is about. Bottom up again is a marketing strategy. Talking about this bootstrap level of marketing, but it's also a societal hierarchy. It's about to the powerless, to the people whose voices are often ignored, and talking to them as well is a key principle. And so that's why fans and audiences, geared towards me and towards our work, especially the next generation. And that's why a lot of journalism is interested in the work that I do.
So when you're doing that kind of grassroots networking, is it more to uncover interesting stories to write about, or is it more to just kind of drive an audience, or both?
It's both in particular. For me, it's more about where are people at right now and where there's a lack of good information. And so I'm in the, if you will, the quote unquote, the darker corners of the internet, which is the places where a journalist typically isn't. I call it, for example, we have a live show that I go on every night. And in that live show, I'm talking about the news. I'm actually bringing in journalists onto these live platforms as well, so they can actually talk to reporters. And we found that to be very interesting because this is an area where, again, right now people are watching their TVs, their TV channels, but most young people, they're scrolling on TikTok, right? So they're getting their news from people like me on these platforms. And so it's now more important than ever to do that. That's the kind of social media efforts to do that. And the in-person stuff, which I'm starting soon. We're doing an event in Boston very soon and trying to pilot it all across the country, which is working with community members, bringing them with creators, bringing them with journalists so they can just talk to one another and see why is the trust kind of gone down. And again, in particular for the next generation.
What's the name of the live show?
I don't know. It has a curse word in it, but it's called Blank You Need to Know.
You need to know?
Yeah, the stuff you need to know, if anything. Again, I do that with a reason, for a purpose, is because a lot of my audience, it breaks the trust immediately when a journalist is being like, "This is what you need to know." We're also from Boston, which is, we're very vocal in Boston.
I feel like one of the challenges, over the last, I don't know, decade plus is a lot of journalism has moved from what you need to know to what you need to believe and think about it and how you should be reacting to it.
Exactly. No, and that is a huge problem. And I think we see that more in the partisan realms. Personally with me, I have opinion stories. I have editorial principles, but all of that is public. And I think that matters. And a lot of creator journalists don't do that. I had a piece recently at Creator Spotlight which talked about objectivity. And I said, someone asked me, how do you stay unbiased? And I say, I don't. I have a objectivity process. I have a fact checking process. You can go see it on my website. It is available at bottomup.news. But my audience respects that, right? I explain to them, but more importantly, I'm explaining to them how journalists, including myself, get their information. Whereas, if it's from partisan sources, they're not revealing where the sources are coming from, or they're just finding the clickbaity headlines. So I think there's a value in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fascinating now that there's the opportunity for independent journalists to make a living as independent journalists, and they really all have their biases, but they're not taking orders from their boss and the corporation that owns them, and they're allowed to talk about whatever they feel like talking about most of the time, right? And so obviously we all know the big ones who've done it successfully for a while, like the Barry Weisses and the Glenn Greenwalds and the Matt Taibbis and people like that. But then, I've uncovered, more recently, folks like the Maine Wire and Steve Robinson and John Gately in Massachusetts and some other folks. And you may or may not agree with their politics, but they're out there trying to uncover stories that you're only going to really read about or get into any real detail with based on their reporting. You're not going to see it on the 6 o'clock news.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think another one is, was other Heather Cox Richardson is another really big one who's based in, I think, believe in Maine as well. The Boston scene is very interesting because it exists, but it's so that's something I'm trying to do. I think I've told you this, which is really build out what this independent media, this creator scene looks like, and figuring out ways we can work together. Because I think there's another element to this, which is I like to call this, and it's not me, it's not a quote from me, but because of the creator economy is $1 trillion economy, this aspect of the creator middle class, where a lot of there's people who are independent. I'm a proud member of that class, by the way. I'm very proud of that class, and I'm okay being in that class. Who don't have that Matt Taibbi, Heather Cock Richardson kind of Barry Weiss numbers, but they're doing independent media right in their communities. There's newsrooms that do this, such as the New Bedford Light, an amazing newsroom, as well as there's independent right people who are starting up. There is someone in, for example, his username is called Bostopia, but again, all he does is I think I told you about this. He just tells you the Boston local news in 60 seconds. So it's that kind of those people who are also doing that now, so as well.
I think the mainstream media just has, the budgets to cover small local stories that are big in the local community, but small at the state and national community. They just don't do that anymore very much. Or if they do, it's like 20 seconds here and there. It's not a real investigation. Yeah. So I'm excited about this space. Um, so, um, obviously you're trying to help these creators and independent journalists be successful and connect people within the communities and produce good content. But I'm curious for your own firm, kind of what are your goals and dreams over the next few years, and how would we measure success for your own firm?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think I would say two ways. I think the biggest one everybody cares about is the monetize, and I care about the monetization aspect, which is really building out in our agency, getting more newsrooms and nonprofits to invest in creative journalism. And I do this, and I'm doing this work in general because when I first started off, I wanted to, like, if you asked me what I would like to do, I'd like to be a full time creator, journalist, reporter. But there is a reality of the fact that journalism is really behind in terms of the creator economy. And I was always told this saying, which is you have to, if you build the world you want to see, right? And so that's why I have to do some of this work. And so I hope in the next 3 to 4 years I have helped further build this world through our work, which is this agency, but then also we're starting these cohort and training programs for newsrooms and creator journalists to come on board, meet with other similar audience engagement creators, and to learn from me and to learn from other experts as well as launching a newsletter as well, while they're free and some paid resources as well. So just growing all those outlets. I used to have a team when I started this in college, back when I was very, very young and much more naive, and I'm still young and naive. But a team you can only go as further as you can alone. So I think making an impact in the journalism world, really growing out the agency, and finally getting my a team back so I can have an editor again, which would be a great.
You have kind of a monetization model of how you generate revenue for your own agency from connecting from servicing newsrooms and nonprofits and creators. Like how does that come together to make you money?
So a part of it is the agency aspect, so which is social media video production, which I can do. The other is, the newsrooms are very difficult understanding the creator economy. So like connecting them with the creator, helping them understand, these are all services that like newsrooms lack. And nonprofits as nonprofits especially, and even small businesses, because we're trying to get into the industry. I've also worked with a lot of small businesses as well. So working with them to drive their audience engagement and strategy for them to eventually have a lead, or again for a newsroom, it's rebuild trust, right? For them, their goal is obviously add subscriptions and all that for sure, but there's an element of rebuilding trust, or getting grant money. So those are the three aspects: the agency, the very production, social media kind of I do the work, and the second part of it, which is the cohort, the trainings, which is me empowering them, which is something I want to build out more. And then finally, which is my own content creation, and creator journalism, which is the kind of I have multiple newsletters, multiple social media accounts that I run, as well.
Nice. What's a big challenge that you're currently facing, or something you recently had to overcome?
Um, I think it's all about money, right? So it's like getting the kind of seed funding is also a challenge, because I'm like, I would say like I'm trying to build this from the bottom up, which means like, there is no initial big investment. It is just it's me working to get to a point of sustainability, a full, not even sustainability, but like full, it's sustainable, but full, like, quadruple, or how do you get to that, like those bigger numbers, which is a small kind of business owner. So a part of that is, and that's every small business's challenge, right? In the economy that we live in. So that's definitely the challenge. I think in the journalism world, it's just convincing journalism, and if any journalist is out there, a newsroom out there, funders out there, that this is happening. I get messages, I get sayings every day. People don't believe in creator journalism. They're too scared about AI. They're like, we're not going to invest in this. And then the reality of it is the fact that, most people now get their news from people like me on TikTok, right? That is the reality. They trust me more. But however, I want to work with you. I want to work with newsrooms. I want to work with these grant funders. Once they catch up and once they're able to do it, I think we can really make a difference. But they're still in the researching phase, I would say. So they're only behind, and time is of essence, I would say.
So there's some of these folks who try to breaking news and do it faster than, waiting for CNN or Fox News or whoever to report it. Then there are others that kind of take their time and do intense, you know, investigative journalism, and, have long form content. Like, do you tend to work with one of the other groups of those?
I do both. I would say, if you told me, I'm a person who, and this is a really good advice for anybody who does social media. It has to be a diet of things, right? It's like you can't do, if you just do the breaking news and be the breaking news guy, you're going to burn out and you're not going to have any in depth. But if you just do the in depth, you're not going to grow. So it has to be a diet of these things. And I've learned that, where it's like you have the meat, you have vegetables, and the kind of breaking news is your dessert or whatever. And the meat is like your brand content. The vegetables are kind of things you really don't want to do, but like, it helps people under the investigative stuff, and the dessert is like the breaking news stuff. I don't know. I'm hungry now saying that. Um, but it comes down to the idea of, we have breaking news versus in hard news. And I used to have it, like I said, I had a newsroom, I had a team doing investigative stories at Boston College was easier to do, right? Going a long ways ahead. Now it's extremely more challenging. So like I pick and choose, in particular, again, for example, things going on right now. I'm covering that as a breaking news thing, but then, if there's a local Boston issue, I'm taking my time right on that. So that depends.
So if I'm an aspiring independent creator journalist, how do I pay my bills until I build a following?
Yeah, you can't.
How does that work?
Or yeah, no, it does start. That's a good question, honestly. It does. A lot of people think, because a lot of people get extremely discouraged because they see people with millions of followers and they're like, dang, I know people who make millions of followers and don't make that much money. It's not about the following. It's about the the personal brand that you're building, and that's the core of it. Um, my first tip honestly is like once you figured out two things, you either figure out what you're really good at, right? In terms of like your ability to do something. Like my specialty is like content creation. I know how to make a video for the next gen. That is my thing. That is what I teach people. That's my thing. Right. Some people maybe you may be a really good, I know a lot of journalists because they come from newsrooms, they're really good editors, right? So like there's things you add up on that. Um, Number two is the fact that if you're doing a creative journalism, what is your niche? Your niche, right? I say niche, but your niche, right? So like find your online corner of the internet and become known for that. My biggest success in stories has never been national. I do not, again, both national, local, global, but Boston has been the biggest base for me because I can tell, as I said, as we've talked about, there isn't really a creator journalism scene in Boston, especially particularly for with marginalized communities. We know there's a lot of great content creators out there, but we're talking about like, a very, very, very important hyper local information that like, that a lot of the outlets, right? They're not spending the time doing the creation to do it. So those are my two biggest advices. It is almost a side project until you realize and there's ways you can get it. But my first tip would be getting those two things situated.
Is TikTok really the primary platform, or are people on X or?
For me personally, TikTok is, even though TikTok has like, I'm getting off TikTok around. I'm not getting off it. It's still like an ability where I had a post that got 1 million views literally today. Like it just ran. It's the most random platform I've been in my, but it's also very local. I'll tell anybody who's a local newsroom, a local reporter, getting on TikTok is my biggest. Even if even for your business, it is the hyper localness of TikTok's algorithm is so strong. Even with the United States, owning it, the algorithm aspect hasn't changed. Instagram is about personal branding, I would say, more than anything, right? All these platforms are different things. And YouTube is where you build long-term sustainability. I'm getting on YouTube now. It's pretty annoying. I'm not gonna lie to you because in my career, again, I started my work when the creator economy started. So I'm a baby of the creator economy and I only know how to make vertical videos. I don't know how to make horizontal videos. So like I'm a little like, how do I do this? Because to me life is vertical. Like that's all I've known. And I'm also part of a unique set of students, right, who are growing up right now in this creator economy. Life is vertical, who are trying to become creator journalists, like how I was 5 years ago at Boston College. So
I'm showing my age, but I am not on TikTok.
I'm also getting on Facebook, by the way, because Facebook is now the #1 monetization platform for the creators. And I didn't because Meta is trying to get Facebook back, right? So how do we do that? Like if you got me back on Facebook, I haven't been on Facebook in years. That's a sign that they're doing well. Or they're trying.
Interesting. Cool. So you mentioned, bootstrapping the business is a big challenge. So, how do you go about managing the bookkeeping and the financial planning and prioritizing decisions in the agency as you try to scale it?
Yeah. Luckily, like I said, luckily I have um a family accountant, like I said, that helps us out. I also have a family full of lawyers, which also help me out with some of the legal aspects as well. So like there is a good heading to that. My father was a businessman as well. So I have some sense of like, I'm still learning some of these things like S Corp and, like write-offs. Like I'm like still learning a lot of these things. That's definitely like in and of itself a, a challenge, but it's new for me for sure. And it's under, cause I think we've only been in official business, I think for the last year and a half. So it's still like, it's a learning curve that I'm like still trying to learn. And I also wonder, for creator journalists, right? This is probably, again, I'm lucky to have a good supporting cast, but for those who don't, right, it becomes probably a much bigger challenge.
Yeah. My day job at SmartBooks is we do bookkeeping, accounting, tax, and CFO services for businesses. And so, you know, first time business owners have that very steep learning curve that you're talking about. And, we help them navigate a lot of things. But yeah, those first several years, you're doing a lot of things for the first time. And you're a creator, you're a journalist, you're not an accountant or a CFO. So, and stuff tends to go by the wayside unless you get in trouble and have to deal with it.
When I showed my family accountant is one who's dealt with gas stations and convenience stores. He's never dealt with TikTok before. And he was like, why am I taking, like, I don't even know. He's like, I don't even know what TikTok is. What is this term? to write off. And he was like, "Can you write off my TikTok?" Something like that, or this is my income, or Facebook, income and all that. So like he's never seen that before. So it's like, and again, that's a whole new thing too, where it's like, wait, like how does the taxes of that work, right? So
Yeah. Cool. So I mean, you've already said some things that seem like you're very excited about the future, but anything you'd highlight that's particularly exciting to you about the future?
yeah, I think our website. We're about to launch our website, and the actual kind of incubator and all these things that I've just laid out for you, just giving it a home, really. And I'm excited about what that will mean and look like, especially because of the membership and like the cohort that we may be able to build, and like what what we're able to do these next, 6 months to about a year from now. Um, Especially with an election year coming up, how much of an impact can we have locally, right? And so, like, I would say, like I said, the website, but then also, like, again, like the election coming up, it is a big, across the nation, especially in Boston and from Florida, whatever it is, to really put our marker out there and make a difference, and grow as an agency that people can rely on, but then also make an impact in the community.
So, Raheem, when you were a little boy, did you think you'd be one day owning and managing your own business?
At 4 years old, I want to become a doctor. At like 15, I want to become a lawyer. At 18, I don't know what I was doing. At 20, I want to become a journalist. And then now I'm like, what am I? I'm like a mixture of like a business owner. I don't know. I would say this path felt very natural. Like I said, I have a family full of business owners and entrepreneurs, and you know, um, but it comes down to belief. I think that's probably the hardest thing, which is, you know, the doubt always creeped in my head in terms of could I do this? Because I started this again in college, so I always felt like it was impossible to do this on your own. And like once I kind of figured out a revenue model, I was like, oh no, maybe it might not be. And so I feel like these next kind of years, so you're talking about the future, I feel like I have the ball in my hand, down by 4 in the fourth quarter, but if you told me years ago, right, that I would have this is the opportunity that I have to go kind of achieve my dreams, then, like, I can't ask for anything better, right?
Yeah, it's a great time to be doing what you're doing. If you had to give yourself some advice a few years ago, what would you tell yourself?
So many things. Oh my god, so many things. I said this earlier, but networking is key. And I don't mean by again, like I'm so grateful for the networking connections I have made, especially on LinkedIn. I'm very shameless on LinkedIn. Just reaching out to people, calling. I don't even calling people out, like just tagging them, saying thank you so much. Like that is that I wish I did that when I was 18, and like just and number two, which is getting over myself. If I was too nervous in college to you know, really get myself I was making video content, but I was too scared. I was too it was also college, so it was very difficult to stay focused on some of these projects, but just getting over myself and being like, like who cares how you look today? Who cares how you sound? Just get stuff out there. And that all of that was practice. Like I didn't realize that the stuff that I did, those 100 view videos that I made would end up helping me become such a really good person to craft narratives and creator and storytelling. Um, and then lastly, don't rely on a single platform or a single revenue stream. Diversify. Go everywhere as best as you can. Especially as businessmen, right? We have to, as business people, we have to do that. Like there is no one revenue stream. It's not a lot of people mistake like I'm gonna do a newsletter and it's like great. It's like a newsletter, that's just one revenue. What about social media? Then what about ads? Like, so there's and on the same thing on social media. I got stuck on TikTok and it's like, okay, like now I'm going to Facebook, like YouTube and all these places because like you never know what could happen, right? You never know what opportunity lies there for monetization. So
Cool. When you're not working so hard building this business, what do you like to do outside of work?
I'm a big sports guy, so please don't cancel me. I'm a Los Angeles Lakers fan, which I know in the Boston audience is already chimed out, and a Green Bay Packers fan. Die hard on both, so I play a lot of basketball. I don't play football. But basketball a lot. Just love watching sports overall, and
Now, you grew up in Boston, the Boston area?
huh? I did not grow up in the Boston. I grew up in Orlando, Florida. So if I grew up in the Boston area, I probably would not be a Lakers fan. I just grew up as a Lakers fan because my family was always a Lakers fan. So I was like, I'm gonna.
It's tough to be a Magic fan. They've only had a few good years over the last couple decades.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the Orlando Magic for you. Even when they're like doing good, they're doing bad somehow.
Although they've got my guy from Duke there who's still playing, right? Doing a good job for them. What's his name?
It's Paulo. Yeah, Paulo Banchero. Yeah, no, he's good. He's good. He's gonna hopefully take them to the promised land.
He needs a little help though.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Uh, awesome. One of my childhood friends who actually grew up in Boston, he's been a lifelong Lakers fan and a lifelong 49ers fan. So it happens.
Kind of similar. Okay, kind of similar. Yeah, nothing but respect to Celtics and Patriots. I love the Patriots. I'm actually a fan of the Patriots just because I think they're a lot more of a fun. I mean, the Celtics and the Lakers have always that's a classic rivalry compared to like the Packers and the Patriots are not really like a rivalry. So it's fun, easier to root for the Pats and Drake.
Cool. So you've got a lot of different channels and everything. Could you just kind of run through the primary ways that people could consume your content and follow you?
Sure. Yeah. So we have bottomup.news, which is our just base kind of home website. Eventually there's going to be another website. I believe it's going to be bottomup.media. I still have to buy the domain for that or figure out a best domain. We're also bottom up media on TikTok and Instagram. That's kind of the news agency part of it. But I have to do a lot in terms of like, as I told you, build out an incubator model. So I'm making its own social media as well. And then reporter Raheem, Rahim, is my personal Instagram. That's actually where I talk about sports and the news, just because I want to do other things. And it's been a fun thing for me to do recently. So kind of like my fun account almost. Like I just have a lot of fun on it.
Okay, cool. If, folks are aspiring creators and want to reach out to you personally and kind of ask for advice or participate in some of the things you're trying to build, what's the best way for them to do that?
Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is definitely the best source for that. My email's on my LinkedIn as well, so you can go reach out as well as our website will be launched in a few weeks and so on. That'll be on my LinkedIn as well. You can go take a look at that and maybe become a member. Again, we'll have individual creator cohorts and we'll have newsroom cohorts, but if you want an individual, creator cohort.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to bring up before we conclude this episode? I've really enjoyed you sharing everything about this Knicks that I didn't know very much about, aside from appreciating some of the individuals who I am aware of.
Yeah. I think for me, I want to say two things. I think one is to all the creator journalists, aspiring creators out there. Again, like I don't have a big following, but been able to sustain myself. And I've already said this, but I've been able to do it because of an ability of understanding what people are missing. What is the problem you're trying to solve? And whether you're running a business or whether you're running a creator, that's how it works. You honestly have to think about being a creator running a business, because that's what it comes down to. It's an audience. It's marketing. It's understanding the community. And I know a lot of people feel discouraged and hopeless with it because they're like, well, I'm not growing. But again, finding that community that only you can talk about. And also, I've discovered this more recently, have fun with it. If you're not having fun with it, you're going to burn out. I burned out many times running accounts that have blown up. But again, I can't, if this is something I'm not passionate about, then I'm not, what's the point in kind of doing it? So, leaving people with this one quote that I heard in a movie once, which is, even if you cannot be the sun that shines upon the earth, be a lamp and light up your street. And so be a lamp and light up your street.
Good words to live by. Well, thank you, Raheem. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story, share what you've got going on, what you're working on, what you're trying to build, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Cal. Appreciate it.
So for those listening, if you learned something today and found this interesting, please share the fact this podcast exists with your marketing agency peers. We're all in this together, so let's spread the word. Thank you again, Raheem.
Of course. Thank you.
This has been another exciting episode of the Marketing Agency Power Hour. We'll see you all next time. Another episode in the books. Thank you so much for tuning in. For show notes and more, please visit marketingagencypowerhour.com. This show is sponsored by SmartBooks, providing marketing agencies with bookkeeping, accounting, and finance support. With SmartBooks, you gain the clarity and confidence to make your agency a success. Until next time.